Monsignor Maurice Dooley, your full title,
Oh, yes, it's very elegant.
and supposed to describe you, you're a canon lawyer,
Yeah,
parish priest,
yeah,
confident.
yeah.
You have an awful lot of titles that you fall under, don't you, in fairness?
Yeah, but most of them are ex,
XRA, yeah,
ex-canon lawyer and ex-parish priest.
yeah. You're retired.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Well, I'm retired. You see, parish priests, all priests have to retire at the age of 75
mhm,
from administration.
yeah,
That means that they have to give up controlling things, but still are expected to work.
work for
I'm only 91, so I'm still working.
brilliant, brilliant. 30 years between us.
Yeah,
I'm 61.
yeah.
And as long as I can remember, you're the parish priest of Lockmore.
No, I'm only here for 32 years.
30. That's a long time. Like,
Before that, I was teaching all the time.
yeah,
In fact, I was able to boast at that time that I had been before or behind a desk for all but the first 3 years of my life,
my God, yeah.
because I started school at the age of 3.
Shapers.
Not because I was particularly dull or particularly intelligent, but because my next brother was on the way.
Ah,
My mother wanted to get rid of me.
ah,
The cheapest way of getting rid of me was an old lady with a shawl there. She'd put me under her shawl and bring me down, dump her in with the nuns in the presentation convent at Thurles,
that
who
you went to
looked
school.
after children up to the age of 7.
Yeah,
And then the Christian Brothers did not take children under the age of 7.
my God.
So after 4 years and a bit with the nuns, I graduated to the Christian Brothers.
Excellent. And
At the
did
age of
you go
7.
to college in Thurles then, or did you go to Maynooth? Or
Well, when I finished Thurles in the CBS in Thurles, I went straight to Maynooth,
mhm,
and I was there for 10 years. Yeah, so the usual course is 7 years, but thought it was still looked a bit dull at that stage. So they sent me back to have a top up. And then I went teaching for a couple of years in Kiltegan. And then after that, I went to teach in the college in Thurles. And I was there for 28 years
my God.
before I was put out on ecclesiastical grass in Lockmore.
And did you find that a huge change? You did, obviously,
Total change.
big
I
time.
never expected to leave the college in Thurles at all,
God.
except in a coffin.
Yeah, yeah. But you really, really settled into Lockmore. You're,
Well, I'm a misfit completely because the good parish priest at that time, he knew everybody in the parish and every house in the parish. And the really good ones knew the name of every cat and dog in the parish as well. But I was never that way inclined. I was
yeah.
never very good. I wasn't a people's person.
But
I
I
was
would
more
find,
academic.
yeah, I would find the opposite now. Say, if I got a call, for argument's sake, in the evening time to go to a house where somebody had passed away, and sometimes I mightn't be 100% sure where the house is. So I'd call you and I'd ask you, like, where the house is. But before we get off the phone, I know everyone that's related to everyone because you have all the connections.
Well, no, I was always good at maps and things like that, and knowing where people were. I might never have been in the house.
Mm.
But I'm a completely different beast altogether. I have a motto from a verse of the famous poem by Brian Merriman, Cuath Van Ihe, The Midnight Court.
Yeah.
You might remember from your school days there was a type of poem called an ashling, and the poet went out and he met a beautiful lady who represented Ireland. And Big Earl Fosa Cotney Greer. That was the general motto of all these ones,
Mm.
that Ireland will eventually work its way out.
I get it.
So was Cotney Greer in this case, that particular one.
Yeah.
But anyway, Brian Merriman had a different kind of experience. That when his poet went out, he met a mob of proto uh, mad women who were anxious to hold a law court to indict all the criminals of the parish, namely all the men.
Yeah.
Because the men were unavailable for marriage. That was their crime. But one of the verses, anyway, deals with the principal criminals in the parish, namely the clergy. The clerical celibacy, you see, did not allow them to marry.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the translations of that particular verse is it passes the mind of mortal man. Ireland has lost by that stupid ban, namely clerical celibacy.
Yeah.
The finest of mate and the best of looks, and nothing to aise their mind but books. So that fourth line is my motto.
That's right. Yeah.
Nothing to aise me mind but books.
Books. So when you came out into the parish, you found that you could delve into books and study maybe some of the
Yeah, but I'm
history.
still surrounded by books.
Yeah. And it didn't, but you must have obviously got into some of the history because I know even when we have funerals, you produce this family list and it goes way, way back. So,
Well, all of that is due to a predecessor of mine who was the typical parish priest of his time, that he knew everybody.
mhm,
And he was also a historian, an amateur historian, but what we call a kind of a documenting type of historian. Some historians are anecdotal historians.
Mhm.
They believe every yarn they were told and record them. But this man would check them out and see was there any sense in the statements that were being told. But he left an awful lot of notebooks. His idea of a holiday, started with Father Walter Skehan. His idea of going on a holiday was to go up to the archives in Dublin and bury himself in the archives for a fortnight or 3 weeks, and then transcribe all the notes from the various books that he found up there.
Mhm.
Go back then in the winter time. The ESB hadn't yet come to Lockmore, so he'd be transcribing all these things as separate books of the separate parishes. So he had the history of an awful lot of the parishes throughout the diocese, but all well documented.
Very good.
And so he was our great historian. So I inherited all those by accident.
I was just going to say, did you keep all those books you did and all that?
I didn't,
No.
but I was in the college in Thurles at the time.
Yeah.
And one of the priests there was organising a false scheme to transcribe all Father Walter Skehan's notebooks.
Mhm.
The government were paying for this, and the idea for the government point of view was they were training girls to be typists, and they were typing out all this material.
Yeah.
But I was the person who was putting the stuff from the floppy disks
Yeah.
onto the main kind of disks, and that enabled me to put all of the things onto one disk.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I had all of Walter Skehan's stuff at my fingertips.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
And he was such a great historian. He had knowledge of every place there.
Yeah.
So I'm really a complete fraud. I'm not only standing on his shoulders, but using all his work.
The information that he had left there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thousands of hours of work that he used transcribing stuff,
By God. Yeah.
notebooks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was getting it all free.
Free. Yeah. It was all there waiting for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you look back on your 30 years in Lockmore,
Well, 32 years.
32, sorry, would you think that pageant that we had for the Cormac brothers was one of the highlights?
It was a brilliant, absolutely brilliant affair there. That was one of the ordinary parishioners.
Correct.
We decided that on this sesquicentenary, that's the 150th anniversary of the Cormac's trial and so on, and they're being brought back to Lockmore, that he organised this. And the idea was a pageant with people dressing up as the more or less the outfits of that time. More bicycles, for example, and pony and traps than anything like
Cars. Yeah.
cars. They hardly existed at that time. So he organised that, did a brilliant job.
It was a serious parish effort, wasn't it? I mean, the whole,
Oh, it was, yeah.
you know,
Well, what I used to call the comely maidens, these were the ladies of the parish who dressed up in pinafores and little frilly headdresses and things of that kind. The mass, representing the mass when the Cormac brothers were brought back
Mhm.
in, was it 1910? But when they were brought back, there was an immense procession, funeral procession, one of the biggest ever in the country.
Mm.
It was supposed to be, people were still leaving the end of the procession in Borrisolee when the front of the procession had arrived in Lockmore.
by God.
But anyway, the comely maidens anyway were going around. There wasn't enough room in the church for the people who came to the mass.
Mhm.
And there were seats out there in the lawn in front of the church.
Yeah.
And the comely maidens were going around with buckets of water and trays of cream cakes and things of that kind to feed the people there. But the people regarded it as a wonderful effort.
And amazing on that day, there was seats outside. There was loads of people sitting outside. So it was,
Indeed,
yeah,
yeah.
there was an awful lot of people. There was a huge crowd turned up. And I think the parish effort was massive. I mean, they painted the buildings. They took every car out of the
Yeah.
village. They really, really went to
Yeah.
town to make sure that it was.
Well, the visitors appreciated it.
Yeah.
One old country man said to me, I used to see the women are great. The women in Lockmore are great.
Organising stuff.
I said, some of the men are great too. They're the people managing the traffic now.
Correct. There was a huge parish effort, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Massive parish effort. And of course, our contact is mainly during funerals. Is obviously naturally enough.
You see, you're a service to the people of the parish as well. I mean, we provide the church, we provide the graveyard and things of that kind. You provide the services for the people. Just think of the average person faced with a bereavement, either sudden or even after a long lingering illness. In either case, they don't know what to do.
Mhm.
And you're the person who does, because you're doing it every day of the week.
Yeah. And there's great cooperation between yourself and myself at all times. And
Yes, and all the others too.
yeah, correct.
I mean, there's a fellow who digs graves. He sings in the church, and he provides all of that service. And if you want anything done, you go to him. Now, if you want anything else done, you go to Eamon Gray.
Yeah, it's great.
I'll give you a typical example there. One time, there was a lady who was on holidays over in England, and she died just before Christmas. Now, if you know anything about English funerals, they take 10 days at minimum, and generally more than 3 or 4 weeks. But you got the body brought back within 2 days, and we had the funeral on Christmas Eve. Now, that was because you not only knew how to do things, but you knew the people
Yeah,
over in England whom you could get to do the things.
yeah.
So that's your expertise.
And I remember even that family when they came in to organise that funeral, they just said to me if we could have Mammy home for Christmas Day.
Yeah,
And as it turned out, Mammy was actually buried Christmas Eve. So
it was, yeah.
yeah, they really were.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were quite
And the
content.
family was rather large because, as far as I remember, I asked them how many direct descendants did she have,
Mm-hmm.
and they totted them up there and said, I think it was 87 or something. And they came back the following day and said, no, we left out a few to 94 direct descendants.
Yeah. And would you have found through your time there then, would the COVID have been one of the hardest times? You used to come in here, actually, and say the Mass in here, and we used to live stream it for people in your parish. Would you have found that one of the hardest times that you went through?
Well, I found it a very difficult time in the sense that the government imposed certain restrictions on us to close the churches, and particularly for the weekdays. The weekday congregation is normally between, say, something between 5 and 10. And there could be not only 6 feet apart, there could be 6 yards or maybe even 60 yards apart in the church. And there was absolutely no danger at all there. But still, we had to close the churches. And there was even talk by this tyrannical government of prosecuting priests who ignored the rules and still opened the church. But anyway, we obeyed all the rules and closed the church. But the people that have got, they got unused to going to Mass. And we still are suffering from that.
Mm.
That the number of people coming to Mass has declined a bit. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we're still providing the service of the live streaming encourages some of them. Now, I can understand that the thing was invented for the people during COVID, and it's still very much an advantage for people who are housebound for any reason, either because they're old or because their legs have gone from under them and they're not able to drive the car and things of that kind. So we've lost a lot of those.
Yeah.
And in that sense, you still have to come and bury them because you can't leave them overground. But we then had to go more or less neglect them.
Right. And once, like anything, once you break someone's habit, it's very, very hard to get it back. It's very hard, yeah.
But as well as that, I tried to break a habit in this sense that I kept telling them that before the year 1850, weddings were never in the church. And why? Most of the churches at the time were unfit to have any kind of a ceremony in them. They were attached cabins, and the crowd, if you put 50 people in it, the place, you couldn't breathe in it. So the practice at the time was the weddings took place in the parish priest's house.
Yes.
And that's why whenever we are looking for these people from America and Australia looking for their roots, and you show them the baptism register there, and you see the wedding register, and you see that find their particular wedding. Then ask him, do you notice anything else on that page? He said, no. Said, look at the next wedding, same date. And the next wedding, same date. Next wedding, same date. So there were 8 or 10 weddings on the same day was not unusual. And so I can even tell you without checking it, that had to be Shrove Tuesday. They were getting in before Lent.
Oh.
And in the week before Shrove Tuesday, you could have several weddings every day. They might have 5 on the Sunday and 7 or 8 on the Monday, and then 10 or 12 on the Tuesday. And then they all went home. If they had a kitchen big enough, which most of them didn't have, they'd have a dance in the kitchen. And then they went to bed and had a honeymoon. Back to work in the morning.
Next day.
That was a much more reasonable system.
Yeah.
So now during COVID, have your wedding for a $5. We'll arrange that.
Yeah.
And have the party if and when you can afford it when COVID finishes.
Yeah.
But I got nobody to take it on.
God. Yeah. Because sometimes people do spend enormous amounts of money on weddings at fairs.
Well,
that's the personal thing. But
30 to 50,000 euros for a wedding is about normal.
To me, yeah. Can be
quite mad.
Yeah, correct. Like I often said, put that money into a house or put it to something practical that maybe.
But they'll be paying that for years and years to come.
Yeah.
Now, some of them tell me that by directing the people not to give them 25 toasters or 25 something or other for wedding presents, to give them money.
Money, and that is.
That if they cooperate with that properly,
Yeah.
that money would pay for the cost of the wedding.
That helps them along the way big time. Yeah.
The current price at the moment for people, if you're making a rough calculation, take €100 per person for the price of the wedding.
Yeah.
That would cover their dinner and the entertainment after the dinner.
Yeah.
So if you want 100 people at the wedding, 100 multiplied by 100 is what?
You have me.
That's the cost of that part of it.
Yeah.
That's why you'll easily get a ballpark figure for your wedding by totting things up and taking account of the economic charges for all of these things. And in the old days, they used to be having rows with the parish priest because there was the parish offering required for weddings in our part of the country.
Yeah.
Different in other parts of the country. But it was £1 a cow or something like that, or £1 an acre that you had to give an offering for the wedding.
Yeah.
And so this other thing now has become a complete burden on the poor people.
Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on them. And and we've had over the years, which one thing I found a little, I won't say strange, but it sounds unusual, that we had one or two funerals where they had no religious involvement, but the families involved asked for you to come in to lead them.
Yeah.
And I said they picked probably the most religious man they could pick to have a non-religious funeral. That you're one of the highest kind of qualified, but you came in and you accommodated them absolutely no problem whatsoever.
Well, of course, a different part of that history is that formerly, before the Second Vatican Council, there were very great restrictions upon participation in other people's weddings. In fact, there was a general misunderstanding that you weren't allowed to go into a Protestant wedding, a Protestant funeral, which was untrue.
Yeah.
It was entirely untrue. But still, you had certain things which gave them that idea. I mean, there were certain very important funerals, for example, say royalty in various places. Yeah. And the local bishop would be invited, and he said he couldn't come. So they provided him with a place outside the church where he could be there. Now, that was a practice even for weddings back in the olden days.
Yeah.
Royalty and people like that.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of King Charles I?
We heard of him, of course, yeah.
It was over in England.
Yeah.
But anyway, that time, the brides for heirs to the throne were chosen for political reasons, to look after treaties between the countries, things of that kind, rather than anything like romance or love or anything of that kind. But anyway, they sized this fellow up with the eldest daughter of the King of Spain. And that fell through for some reason or other.
Yeah.
So then they shifted and got the eldest daughter of the King of France.
Yeah.
But she was a Catholic and he was a Protestant. So they couldn't have the wedding in the church. And the agreement eventually was that the wedding would take place outside the church. This was Notre Dame Church in Paris.
Good.
And they built a platform outside the church there. And your man came to that wedding. Sorry, he didn't come to the wedding. He was told to stay away from the wedding, but send a deputy, a sub. So he sent a sub across. And then the King and Queen of France brought their daughter. And what was her name? Something called Marie. But anyway, they brought her down and to this platform outside of Notre Dame. And your man came along and he stood in as a sub.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the husband was back in London. And the wedding took place. And after that, the sub and the lady in question, they came out from Notre Dame, but then he had to cool his heels in an adjacent palace while they went back in for the Mass after the wedding, the nuptial Mass. So the King and Queen of France and their daughter, now the Queen of England, went back into Notre Dame Cathedral for the Mass. Meanwhile, your man had to cool his heels in some adjacent palace, and then they came out and reunited your man with the bride, now Queen of England, and he brought her back to her husband, who was meanwhile
Yeah.
cooling his heels or doing something similar over in England.
Japers, eh?
And they had another kind of a marriage over there, apparently.
Yeah.
But anyway, the real marriage, as far as we were concerned, was the proxy marriage, proxy standing in
Yeah.
for the King of England.
Okay.
And that was the real marriage.
Yeah. And part of your job then, of course, was a canon lawyer, because I remember sometimes going back a few years when we'd go to Lockmore and we'd have a funeral, you might be missing. And
Oh, yeah.
somebody said to me, "Where's the Monsignor?" I said, "Oh, he's in Rome talking to
You
the
go
Pope."
back to the kind of lawyer part of it.
But it was part of
Yeah,
your life too, wasn't it?
I read about that particular wedding, the one I described to you there,
Yeah, yeah.
in a book
Yeah,
on canon law,
canon law.
written by a man at the time. He was recommending this as proved practice for holding one of these dynastic weddings.
Yeah,
And then he became Pope later on.
yeah.
And he wrote this well-known treatise on canon law and Bible theology.
Good, yeah. And you were very high up there. You were like, you used to be regularly going over to Rome, so you had a very high job there, obviously, as well as trying to run your parish.
No, I wasn't. I didn't have any meetings in Rome.
Ah,
I was meeting in Europe, various palace or capitals of Europe. Now, I was appointed as the delegate or representative of the Holy See at certain meetings of the Council of Europe.
Mhm.
The Council of Europe is a cooperation between, I think at the moment, about 27 countries in Europe.
very good.
They hold these meetings.
Yeah,
And major topics which are about to come up or which have come up already. Take, for example, organ transplantation, the rules and regulations for that.
yeah.
All the ministers of health would send their representatives to this meeting. In this particular one was in Paris.
Yeah.
And then they would discuss the latest things with regard to, can you have organ transplantation, a double transplant of the lungs and some things of that kind.
Mm.
Whatever was if you like, the cutting edge of the technology of the time.
Yeah.
We would discuss that,
Very good.
all the delegates.
Yeah.
Now, I represented the Holy See, and all the other fellows at it would be the senior representatives of the health departments of the governments. So I used to be a kind of a strange object in this particular meeting. And I used to try and explain myself there that I'm the spy for the Vatican.
And when you used to tell them where you were a parish priest, you say,
Just tell him,
"Where's Lockmore?"
just tell him that je suis l'espion du Vatican. I am the spy of the Vatican.
Very good, very good. And did you find that tough, like you had to be a parish priest as well as have that?
Yeah, well, I was only twice a year to be going to these.
Oh, very good, John. Yeah.
And the meeting would take 3.5 days.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you have to write a report. Because the Holy See is very anxious to be well up in what's going on,
Mhm.
the cutting edge problems throughout Europe,
Mhm.
and anything concerning the church in it. Now, with regard to the organ transplantation, we'd have the problem is, can you donate your lungs or your various parts of your body?
Mhm.
And initially the church was very, very much against that. And then gradually they said that you can. For example, blood transfusion is
Yeah.
no problem at all.
Yeah.
That the blood's taken from you and it doesn't harm you a little bit.
Yes.
And then you can save the life of somebody else. But then when it came to the question of heart transplantation, when that came up originally, there was a particular individual started experiments, and mostly they didn't work at first.
Mm.
But gradually he refined these techniques, and now heart transplantation is a commonplace
Common
thing.
practice, yeah.
And then you go on to other ones. What about lungs?
Mm.
And then other problems would be, can you transplant the generative organs, things of that kind?
Yeah.
We'd be very much against that.
Against that.
So we discuss all these problems, and the Holy See would be anxious to find out what was the medical opinions on all these things.
Yeah.
And that's why I would be there at this meeting. Now, you get fascinating things from them at times, because they would have all the expertise, but some of which would be of interest to us. I remember one time when we were discussing artificial procreation and all those kind of areas, as test tube babies and that kind of thing. You got fascinating information on that. I remember the chairman at the time was an Englishman, and he was telling me some of the problems they come up against.
Yeah.
And for example, some particular people there in London, they were lesbians. They didn't want men to be involved, but you normally need some man involved in the procreation of children. So they wanted a child, but they didn't want men.
Yeah.
So they bought some sperm from California. He gave me the name of the company over there in American language, provides this particular service.
Jeepers.
And you get their catalogue and they tell you, do you want a slanty-eyed person if you're Chinese origin, and you want crinkly-headed person if you're Negro origin, and so on. And you order your sperm. So they did this. And they got what they call a turkey baster to go and use the implement to transplant. But anyway, turned out the child suffered from spina bifida.
Jeepers.
So they said bad. So they tried again.
Right.
The second child, same problem. So that didn't work out.
Right.
So these are the kind of fascinating
that you deal with
things you find in discussing at the coffee breaks.
At that level. And did the church have a problem with cremation initially? Or?
It did initially, going back to the last century, because there were people there who were using cremation as a kind of an argument against the resurrection from the dead.
Yeah.
See, we believe in the creed every time you read the creed in the church. I believe in the resurrection, life, the world to come.
Correct.
So they were saying there's no such thing as life after death.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you cremate the body.
Yeah.
The body's finished.
Yeah.
If you're dead, you're dead. That's that. So the church was opposed to that and said that anybody who ordered his body to be cremated would not get a church funeral. But this was because it was regarded as putting up a banner saying, I don't believe in the resurrection.
Resurrection,
Life after death.
Yeah.
But later on, it's described that it's now a matter of economics.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people come to you and say, what's the price of burial and how does it relate to the price of cremation?
Correct.
What's your answer?
I would say to get grave diggers is at the moment, say €700, and to be cremated is €700.
Nearly the same anyway.
Correct, but that obviously doesn't apply in Lockmore.
Yeah.
Because you have the neighbours who go and dig the grave. So.
Yeah, but then you see, we bought the graveyard, we run the graveyard.
The church graveyard.
The county council has put up the prices very much. What's the price of
a grave here in town now would be €700 for a single.
Yeah.
And then of course you have to get a permit and you have to pay more money to put up a headstone.
Yeah.
So it's.
But I remember I was inquiring one time in Thurles, and there are different prices. You first of all you have to get your plot.
Yeah.
Then you have to get the digging of the grave.
Correct.
And then you have to get the burial.
Yeah.
And then the filling into the grave. Mm-hmm. And that depends on what day of the week it is.
Yeah.
If it's on say a Wednesday or a Thursday, it's all right. The kind of basic price.
Yeah.
But if it's on a Saturday or a Sunday,
it's extra.
And particularly if it's a bank holiday. If you're burying on the Sunday and the bank holiday the following day, it can be much, much dearer.
Yeah.
But that's commerce.
Yeah, correct.
So we're cheaper.
Yeah, well, definitely big time. I've always said that.
But I used to have a rule when I started off there that a particular price, we were only charging £50 for the plot. Mm-hmm. For parishioners who paid all their collections. It was twice that for parishioners who only paid some of their collections. Mm-hmm. And it was 3 times that for those who come from outside the parish who hadn't paid any collections.
Yeah, which is fair enough, in fairness.
Well, that was my commercialism.
Yeah, correct, exactly. But still so much cheaper than going into
still we're much
big time, big time. Yeah, correct. Yeah. And of course I won't say a disadvantage, but the big advantage probably for you in Lockmore is that when you put a council cemetery together, they sometimes will decide different rules that maybe a family can't carry the coffin in, or the neighbours can't dig the grave, and different things. Whereas Lockmore, you have control over the church; you can decide yourself.
Well, generally, the county council ones they require all the activities. They provide all the services, but provide all the charges.
Correct. Yeah, which is it's a lovely tradition in Lockmore. It's one of the few places.
It all depends.
Yeah.
See, the people who dig the grave, generally you find what we call a mehel in Irish, or people who assist in the digging of the grave.
Yeah.
Now, they do it as a charitable act.
Correct.
And an appreciation of the person who's dead.
Yeah.
But you're expected to provide, beside an adjacent tombstone, a bottle of whiskey and a bottle of 7-Up or something. Now, does that price correspond with what the...
It would, because obviously a bottle of whiskey, you get 2 bottles of whiskey, I presume, for maybe 70 or 80 euros, where your grave digging is well said. To get a double grave here in town is 1,400, and then to get it open and closed then is another 7. So you're looking at over 2,000. So a few bottles of whiskey wouldn't come close.
We always got the graves that's 9 foot by 4.
Yeah.
And a double one then is 9 foot by 8, and a treble one is 9 foot by 12. So I used to tell people, we don't care what you do with it, you can put spuds in it if you like.
If you want to,
and you're waiting for the thing to be
yours. another thing we have in town then as well is, for argument's sake, if I bought a grave and I'm buried here, and my son then wants to buy one beside me, he can't. But in your cemetery, they can, because again, it's church owned.
Well, we make the rules in our cemetery. The government
Yeah,
or somebody makes the rules elsewhere.
right.
I know. I was trying to find out what is when does the county councils and these people begin to get involved in cemeteries?
Yeah.
The county councils weren't invented until just about the 1890s.
Mm-hmm.
So who looked after things before that? Just the church and nobody else.
Correct. They probably were.
But going back to the 1870s, I think Queen Victoria had a lot of legislation with regard to graves. For example, the depth to which you dig a grave and whether or not you have to have a certain amount of earth above them. I couldn't tell you offhand what the rules are, but I think you had to have 3 feet of earth over any particular grave.
Correct.
So you had 1 foot of earth between them, but 3 foot then. And then if you take a coffin and about 18 inches tall, you have to add, if you have 3 coffins to go in, that's 3 times 18 inches.
Correct.
And then you have the foot of earth between them. And then you have to have 3 foot of earth above the top one.
Yeah.
So you tot it all up, which meant that you have to dig the grave to about 11 feet if you want all
to get the 3 coffins into it. Yeah, correct, to get the maximum use
so I always look around in there, and if I see some lady in black answering to the name of Victoria, I get worried about it, because it's a fine of £2 if you violate the rules.
Yeah.
So in case there's a lady called Victoria in Widow's Weeds hanging around the grave, I get worried. But if she's not there, I say, don't mind it.
Don't mind it, yeah, there's no problem. Because we often kind of got around it, maybe might be pushing a little bit, but if we hadn't the 2.5 feet of clay on top of the coffin, we sometimes went and put cement, we cemented over the grave afterwards. So that kind of got us out of that scenario, But
yeah, but that gives other problems. One of the problems I had with regard to that is that some person who really didn't deserve Christian burial at all, because he was not very well on with the church. But anyway, when he died, he was cremated.
Yeah.
And he's a pious relative of his wanted to know, could we allow him to be buried in this particular grave, which happened to have this concrete top on
it. Yeah.
So we had to get a jackhammer to dig a hole in to put in the little urn with the ashes of the fellow when he was buried eventually.
Did you have any unusual funerals now, looking back over your years in Lockmore? Anything that's different that stood out?
Well, the most unusual we had recently was a Muslim lady. She was a person there. She looked after a child. A man was left with a small child, and his wife had departed from him at the time. So anyway, he had to get in this lady to act as a nanny for the child. And she brought the child up extremely well. Was very well got with all the parishioners here. Very pleasant person.
Yeah.
And did everything that she should do. And the child was being raised a complete Catholic by this Muslim lady.
Correct.
So then she decided she'd like to be buried in Lockmore. And before Vatican II, that would be a difficulty. But after Vatican II, we're allowed, according to the rules there, that if they don't have their own church in the area, as the Muslims don't have any, we've no mosque in Lockmore at the moment anyway. Not likely to have one ever. We can loan them the use of our church for their funeral.
Yeah.
So the funeral came in, as though it were a Catholic funeral. The coffin was before the altar. And then I said some prayers. And then I invited my colleague, the imam, the equivalent of the Muslim priest, to come, and he gave his prayers in Arabic for a while.
Yeah.
And that was the reception of the remains to the church.
Yeah.
The following day, we brought the coffin out, put it down beside the grave.
Correct.
And I said some prayers. And then my colleague, the imam, he switched the coffin around a bit to face Mecca.
That's right.
And he said his prayers. And then the coffin was buried.
Yeah.
And everybody, there was nobody scandalized. Everybody thought it was a wonderful bit of friendship and cooperation.
Big time. Yeah.
Kind of respecting everybody. As the Muslim imam and his friends, and the lady in question, the Muslim lady, her friends, they all were.
Everyone's religion was respected, in fairness. And
everybody, well, there's no point in having rows, What's the Third World War unless you really have to.
And I remember even, again, when the family were making the arrangements, and they mentioned about that you coming in to say some prayers, and then they mentioned about the church, and I said, God, I'm going to have to check that one for you. But you had no issue with it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And, and even her own, I contacted some of her own religious people in Dublin, but they were insisting that she be brought to Dublin. They had their religious system that they carried out on the person. But of course, the man that was carrying out the funeral, he didn't want that. He wanted it to be carried out here and to be carried out the same as we have one here.
Well, that's your area of expertise, is to talk to these people, to have a little mediation service in advance.
And the funny thing, if the minister that I spoke, or whatever he was that in their religion that I spoke to, if he didn't get his way, he wasn't going to participate in the story. Whereas you just rolled with the dice and you had no issue
but
with
you got another man who was willing to cooperate.
He came from England.
Yeah.
Because the person that was here, unless they actually got their way and the thing was carried out the way they, which I kind of said to myself, it was very stern.
Well, you see, as a canon lawyer, I could quote a chapter and verse on when Vatican II changed the rules.
Yeah.
And said that this thing is now allowable.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you've dealt with all sorts of funerals. Obviously, we've had every sort of a scenario with a funeral. But when the funeral came to your own doorstep, when your own brother and sister, did you find it harder, tougher, any different? Or
I would just say I'm not a great person's person.
Yeah.
So I'd be fairly hardened to any kind of situations of that kind.
Yeah.
So my two brothers were priests in Australia, so I wasn't able to go to either of their funerals. When I went to ask the doctor, was I fit to go? And he said no. He started humming and hawing. So anyway, we had the service was broadcast from Australia, and the local school teacher there arranged that he had a large size screen and so on. So I was sitting in the front row, Maria, in Australia at my brother's funeral.
Brilliant.
So that's the way things can be worked with technology, like all this gadgetry.
Yeah, correct.
There's you around here at the moment.
Heading in the same direction. Yeah. Brilliant.
So we were at a funeral this morning, and the technology was brought in for that funeral.
Great, the live stream again, yeah.
But I could recognize it immediately because in addition to the church microphone, there was another little microphone, a blue light on it.
Oh, very good. He put a microphone on the altar. Very good.
On the ambo.
Yeah.
And on the altar.
Excellent, yeah. Yeah. That's my cousin Martin.
That's part of your expertise. I don't have to worry about that.
That's actually my cousin Martin Gray.
Is that right?
Yeah, he looks after all that for me. He's brilliant at it in fairness. So
but again, it's the matter. No, the right person to go to.
Oh, correct. And he would have put my website together. He'd put my YouTube channel, everything kind of technical that I have. He put it together originally for me. Now he does the live stream for the funerals, which is brilliant. And it's live streamed onto our webpage, and it's also live streamed onto our YouTube channel then where it's stored, and people can go look at it afterwards. So technology, when it works, is brilliant in fairness, isn't it?
Well, when you have an expert who knows what to do.
Oh, correct, yeah, that knows what they're doing.
We have a permanent installation there in Lockmore, but not in Castleiney.
Yeah.
But in Lockmore, if you're unlucky enough, you can see my face on the screen every morning at 9:30.
Yeah, we had you here for a long, long time. Practically every morning, I think at the beginning, you used to come in the same mass and we used to live stream it. And sometimes people in Lockmore used to slag me afterwards because I'd often come down when you were saying the mass and they used to be giving out about my responses weren't great. And I said,
there was a time when you were in a band, weren't you?
Yeah, correct, in Minnesota. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Tell him that story.
Yeah.
What were you?
When we played at the Holy Show.
The Holy Shows, this priest band.
Correct. So there was all priests in the Holy. I think there
except you.
Except there was three of us.
What was your qualification?
Father Welch, he used to introduce us as artificial seminarians.
Yes, you were the artificial seminarian. But all the farmers in the locality would be amused at that.
Yeah, correct. And I remember we played in the Premier Hall and we packed it for 3 nights. I remember the Holy Show packed it. But the last night, the Archbishop came down to see it. But Father Welch didn't introduce us as artificial seminarians that night.
Well, you see, the Archbishop was the owner of the dance hall. It's the Confraternity Hall in Thurles.
Yeah.
Owned by the church. And he would be regarded wrongly, technically in law, he's not the owner of it, but he'd be regarded the Archbishop's dance hall.
Yeah, God, So Father Welch was afraid maybe he'd get into a small bit of bother, so I suppose he said safer to skip it maybe that night. But do you see funerals changing then in the near future? Would you see a change coming in funerals, or would you see it going a different direction? Or
well, what's very obvious at the moment is that cremation is increasing more and more. And the significant thing now is where you don't have anything in the church, you go straight to the crematorium. That means there are people who really not interested in religion
Yeah.
and are using that as an expression of their disinterest.
Yeah.
Just the same as the old rules of cremation were an indication that you were not only disinterested in religion, but you were protesting against the religious idea
Yeah.
of the resurrection of the dead. So those kind of things are there. We have to go and be aware of them.
And I noticed the cremation, like you say, coming in big time. But I'd say 95% we have our cremation service here, but there's still a priest involved. The priest still comes in and says prayers, and people like to see the priest.
Yeah.
And one thing I often notice that myself now, and I wouldn't be over religious, as you know, I wouldn't have the door of the church worn out by any means, but I notice sometimes when families have tragedy, when tragedy hits the family, a family that has great faith, they muster through it.
Yeah.
They really take it, and it could be the hardest of tragedies, but they just take it on their chin because they have this master faith at the back of it all. Yeah.
But again, that's part of your expertise because, as I was saying there at the very beginning, people are pretty trinicated when a bereavement occurs, particularly when it occurs suddenly or tragically, and they don't know what to do. They don't know where's the graveyard, anything of that kind. They have no answers.
Yeah.
You have all the answers because you're doing it every day of the week.
Yeah.
You're the expert. And that's the very same as a carpenter. If you need, the door is falling down on you, and you don't know nothing at all about carpentry, bring in a carpenter.
Of course.
Who's fitting doors every day of the week, so he knows what to do.
Yeah.
And you might know a hammer from a chisel, but he does.
I always say DIY to me is destroy it yourself and then pay someone to fix it. that's my DIY.
Yeah, but you're the expert in your own area.
Oh, correct. In my own, correct. Yeah.
What graveyard can you use?
Yeah.
How do you get? Have you had to have a time slot? If you're in Dublin, there you're allowed to come in at 25 minutes past 8 or 25 minutes past 10.
Yeah.
And you can't be more than 5 minutes on either side of that.
Correct.
In the country area there, you operate by what I call GAA time. You know the GAA meeting is starting at 8 o'clock. That means 10:30.
And I often think, I remember even years ago when we were more inclined to go to the church the night before. But if there was any delay, once I rang you and communicated with you, there was no problem. That I didn't just leave you sitting at the church for an hour waiting. That if I rang you and said, look, Monsignor, I think I'm going to be an hour late, and you'd say, oh, that's fine, that's no problem. It is down to communication, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I used to tell you that if you really want to come in at 2:30 in the morning, we can be there at 2:30.
Correct, yeah. You were always exceptionally accommodating, in fairness. And I must say, Father Dominic, in fairness, very, very same as you. In fairness, you're both very, very...
There's another parish priest, and if you didn't turn up in time, he'd go home and say,
correct.
Call me when you come.
You wouldn't come. Several times I used to ring him and I'd say, I'm going to be half an hour later. She goes, well, I won't be here. That was the answer I got. I remember we used to have a sacristan, and again, the funerals used to come in at the evening time, but sometimes you'd be a bit late. And of course, she'd always be mad to go to bingo. So when we come in with the funeral, she'd be very cross. But then the minute the priest, whoever yourself, whoever, stop praying, and people would be coming up to sympathise, but she'd start turning the lights off in the church.
Yeah. Because turn the heating off.
Yeah, she was impatient. Lovely talking to you, Monsignor.
Well, you find the same thing with regard to weddings. I remember we had a kind of a row one time with some people there. At least some people had a row with this particular bishop. They didn't allow weddings on Sundays. And I said to you, people want to have a wedding on Sunday. There are all kinds of reasons that they might have that you know nothing about.
Yeah.
And you can't be forbidding weddings on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I said, according to the canon law of the church, you can have a wedding at any hour of the day or night.
Yeah.
In any place you like. Now, the civil law is different.
Yeah.
It has to be in a church and certain hours and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it was the bishop concerned that you can't be prohibiting weddings on Sundays. Mm. And he came back to me and said, I don't want you going around telling people that I can't forbid weddings on Sundays. I said, you're a canon lawyer. You know bloody well you can't forbid them.
And of course, now we have the scenario where funerals are being ruled out on a Sunday.
Commercialised.
Yeah. But the churches, some churches are saying, no, you can't have a funeral on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is probably...
Well, I know, this particular diocese, with this particular bishop, was forbidding weddings on Sundays. What was to happen was that he used to go to a neighbouring diocese.
Yeah.
That's the very same as, remember the time that dances weren't allowed during Lent
Yeah.
in our diocese. And the bishop used to send a lawyer around, solicitor around to the licensing authorities, the courthouse,
Yeah.
and said they ban all weddings on Sundays. And then around the diocese there, when you went across the boundary in the Limerick diocese or Kildare diocese,
Yeah.
you could have
Yeah.
a dance on
Yeah.
during Lent. That's why dance halls were built on the boundaries of our diocese.
Or the famous parish priest who told his parishioners that they could have dancing 2 nights a week, on Monday night for the ladies and Tuesday night for the men.
Yes, that would be a good solution.
Yeah. That's all that.
They should put you in charge of how to deal with cranky
I can
canon.
get, It was absolutely fabulous talking to you, Monsignor. Thanks so much for taking the time to.
I'm glad to talk to you.
Yeah, it's lovely.
But we're very glad to have you because we know that you are the cooperative person and that we can dump all our problems onto you. So that if we have a real problem with regard to digging graves and so on, we don't have to worry about it. We can always say that the advice we always give to bereaved people is that you are Trina Kale at the moment. You probably haven't had a proper sleep at night for the last week or so, looking after the person who's dying.
Mm-hmm.
We send all your problems, dump all your problems onto Eamon Gray,
Yeah.
and let him deal with it.
Let him sort it.
And our experience is that Eamon Gray does look after problems.
Brilliant. It's a great cooperation between us both, isn't it? It works.
Happy cooperation.
Yeah, it works brilliant.
Each can dump the problems they don't want to the other.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Monsignor.
Okay, well, thank you.
Great to talk to you.
Yeah.